Meet the volunteer chairman of the board of the March of Dimes of South Carolina. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning with the Myrtle Beach Herald. We're focused on the March of Dimes, and we're visiting with the chairman of the board of the South Carolina chapter, John Baker. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So exciting to know that even on the local level, they get big shots to come in to help promote tomorrow night's event.
Big shots know how to get from Columbia to Myrtle Beach.
That's a much quicker trip now than it was a long time
That's
ago.
right. That's exactly right.
The ride plan's done some great things.
That's right.
You are all over the state now, John, in this position.
Well, this month particularly, Greg, I'm making a tour of all of our counties and divisions to talk about the goals that we have for the March of Dimes for 2005. And this is a special year for the March of Dimes. This is the 50th anniversary of the Salk vaccine, Jonas Salk vaccine to cure polio. Came into being and cured a lot of men, women, and children 50 years ago this year. And so we are celebrating the whole year, and more specifically in September, the March of Dimes National Leadership Conference will be going to San Diego, where the Salk Institute is located, and there the Salk Institute is going to rename a building in honor of the March of Dimes.
How exciting.
It really is exciting. Yes.
1955 was a big year then.
Big year,
yeah,
big year.
Yeah, I think I saw someone's birth year, but you can imagine. You know,
I think it's my twin brother.
Your twin brother, that's right. There's just so many aspects of the March of Dimes. I know, obviously, tomorrow we've got Kathy Douglas coming in, the Associate State Director, to know that you were here last Wednesday for the local, the PD Division's chapter meeting, and to think, as you say, traveling around, I think last Wednesday you were also in Charleston. So
Correct.
you were really hitting the state hard.
Correct. We are excited about something that we're doing to talk to donors and friends of the March of Dimes this year. We're doing something quite unique. Most of the March of Dimes fundraising is done on a local level. Walk America is an example. Our real estate events, our Star Chefs events are all local events. We don't raise money on a statewide basis, but this year we are doing something on a statewide basis, and we've gotten the assistance of Governor Sanford and his wife Jenny to assist us, and they've lent their name to the first of what we hope will be many governor's balls in South Carolina. And the first ball will be held January 29th. Here, rather in Columbia, right, at the new convention center in downtown Columbia.
That's this Saturday night?
That's this Saturday
wow.
night. And we're bringing over 400 people from around the state. These are donors to the Prematurity Fund campaign. Let me talk for a minute about that campaign. 2003, the March of Dimes nationally embarked on a 5-year, $75 million campaign to address the issue of prematurity. Nationally, 50% of all births are born to women not full term. And we at the March of Dimes don't know why. We don't know why women who exercise regularly, who eat well, who take care of themselves and don't smoke, still don't have a full-term birth. And the funds from the proceeds, 100% of the proceeds from this $75 million campaign will go to research and development across the country and across the world to help us address prematurity. So our Governor's Ball this Saturday night in Columbia is recognizing donors from around the state who've made a minimum contribution of $10,000 or more. And together we're going to hear from both the governor talking about prematurity, how important it is to him and his administration here in South Carolina. In addition, we're going to hear from the daughter of the founder of the March of Dimes. The founder was Franklin Delano Roosevelt. His granddaughter, Anna Roosevelt, will be in Columbia, and she is a National March of Dimes trustee, and she'll be speaking to the group as well.
How exciting. This will be a magnificent Saturday night. Is there still I guess it's almost too late for folks to still get involved.
Probably a little too late to get involved, but not too late to ever make a contribution to the President's Society.
Well, you'd probably take a $10,000 check today for someone to get in this
No
weekend.
question.
Yeah.
No question. Yeah. It's never too late. Let me say that.
Good.
We plan to have a live big band, actually from the Myrtle Beach area. Andrew Thielen Big Band.
He's played at parties I've had, yeah.
He's going to be in Columbia with his big band, and we've got a live auction, and we're We're truly excited about the opportunity to bring corporations and individuals together in a group from all around the state to talk about the March of Dimes and what's going to happen in the next several years.
John, this is happening in other states, or is South Carolina kicking it off?
South Carolina's kicking it off. This was done years ago when FDR was president. He encouraged states throughout the country to have governor's balls to raise money. And of course, he encouraged children to send their dimes into the White House to help fight polio. We've conquered polio now thanks to Jonas Salk, and we're dealing with birth defects and prematurity. So that's our focus now for the next several years.
John, driving in from Columbia early on, are you originally a Midlands native?
I'm a native of Columbia, correct.
Is that right?
Right.
Great. And you attended school in the area? You always stayed in the
Public
state?
school in Columbia, college in South Florida, and then finished up at the University of South Carolina.
Great. So there was something about the Palmetto State that pulled you back. What do you think it was?
Probably one of several things. Certainly, my family is in business in Columbia, actually throughout the Southeast, but headquartered in Columbia. I'm involved with a commercial real estate development company that was started by my father and his cousin. But I will say to you that the March of Dimes has always held a very special place in my heart since public school days. And when I came back to Columbia from Florida in college, I picked up the phone and called the March of Dimes and said, "I'm here. What do you need me to do?"
Come on.
No, I'm serious. I'm serious. I said, "I'm here. It's something that I enjoy doing. What can I do to help?"
Golly, now how did you get introduced in high school?
Well, when you answer a question, Greg, in class, if you know the right answer, you raise your hand.
Yeah.
I was involved in student council, and one day there was an announcement that a meeting was going to be held in downtown Columbia at the Richland County Public Library for the March of Dimes, and they needed a volunteer. And I raised my hand.
Yeah.
And so from there, I got involved with the March of Dimes, both standing on street corners in Columbia, holding the can out in cold weather, asking people for donations. The city of Columbia, as well as Charleston and several other cities in South Carolina, had March of Dimes telethons. And so I got involved with that event as well, and helped raise money and generate enthusiasm for those televised appeals for funds. And just generally did everything I could, including participated in Walk America, which was not called Walk America way back then. It was called Super Walk.
Super Walk,
and
wow.
it was super in Columbia for one good reason. It was 21-mile walk around the city of Columbia.
Wow.
Lots of blistered feet after that event was over.
Yeah, a lot of cops stopping traffic, I guess.
That's exactly right. It was a lot of fun. In those days, compared to today, you raised your money from pledges, but those pledges were paid after the walk was over.
Right.
So you walked that long way, and you had a check card in which your check card was stamped every time you stopped at a checkpoint. You brought your card back after the event was over to your donors to say, "Here, I walked the miles, and pay me a nickel, dime, a dollar, whatever per mile," and you raise the money that way. Today, we've perfected the walks, and now we raise the money in advance of the event.
Get the money in-house.
And no blisters. The walks aren't quite as long.
Yeah, they're not. Why do you think they pulled away from the super walks? I remember growing up doing the crop walks, which were 10 miles. I think we through the family. Obviously, I don't know if they were religious-based or not, but it seems like 10 miles was the norm.
Yeah, I think probably because the walks in previous years started in the early 70s were day-long events, and because obviously in today's society people are so busy, they don't have enough time to spend a full day walking when you can still raise the money without having to physically walk the 20 miles.
Right. The key thing, John, is you're talking about getting interested and raising your hand in class to volunteer. In high school, did you know what the March of Dimes was? What was it that, did you know what you were raising the hand for?
Had no idea what I was going to, what I was getting involved in, and it's really been a labor of love. I love to tell the story of being a big baseball fan, and I'm a personal friend of a baseball player who's now in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. And his name, many of the viewers out there will remember the knuckleballer from Atlanta by the name of Phil Niekro.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I met Phil Niekro through the March of Dimes. Phil was a March of Dimes supporter in Atlanta, where he lived, and he came to Columbia 2 consecutive years while I was involved with our local telethons. And again, we're going back to, there's a consistency here of raising my hand at a local board meeting when someone said we needed somebody to pick up Phil Niekro at the airport.
Oh, yeah.
And at 15 years of age, I said, I'll be happy to pick him up.
I'm all over it.
Right. So I became good friends with Phil Niekro as a result of that in the early 70s. So my love of baseball, certainly love of the March of Dimes, came from understanding what the organization was. In 1973, when I graduated high school in Columbia, I attended the kickoff, the initial kickoff of the first NICU, neonatal intensive care unit, in South Carolina. And that unit is now over 30 years of age. And the money we raised in Columbia went and bought equipment to hopefully that save babies in Columbia and throughout the state, even back in the 1970s. So learning and understanding that my work, my efforts in raising money was saving babies meant a great deal to me then as it does today.
Do you have any children now, John?
I have one child. She's 13. Her name is Gabrielle, and she's healthy. And certainly those of us who have healthy children are grateful that we have healthy children. Right. And it's another reason to give to the March of Dimes, because all our babies are not healthy. And we look at our children who are healthy and say, we want to do something to help. And many of our donors do that when they look at their own family and say they're thankful to have children who are healthy and were born full term.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Other families still in the Midlands, in the Columbia area?
Correct. Yes.
So you have stayed, obviously a lot of folks had interest in staying close to home, either growing the family business or remaining in the area. It's amazing when you think about commitments to a certain area and things that keep you there, whether it's business or family.
Correct, correct. And giving back is so important. I mean, I think it's something that I learned through my father and uncle being in family business, understanding the importance of philanthropy, the importance of giving back. Certain religions have tithing, obviously, the understanding of helping those who are less fortunate. So all that's important to every citizen to give back in some way, shape, or form. If it's not dollars, it's certainly time.
John, I'm fascinated to think about the time you've given, whether it's to the March of Dimes or to others, having to travel around statewide, to be in Charleston last Wednesday, to be in Myrtle Beach here last Wednesday, obviously to be back here leading up to this Saturday night's event. How are you able to give time to your own family and to your businesses?
Well, you have to budget your time. It's very important. But it's easy to budget your time when you have a passion for an organization. While my service to the March of Dimes has not been continuous, I've been involved with the March of Dimes since 1968. One of the things that makes the passion so easy is when you walk into NICU and you see a baby who's a pound or a pound and a half, and you see, for example, the ring on my finger can fit up the shoulder and arm of a premature baby, and you understand that not all of the organs are functioning properly because they're not fully developed, and when you see these infants, you see the struggle trying to survive, and you see the nurses and doctors, and you see the wonderful staff that we have at the March of Dimes who work so diligently to raise the money and help support volunteers like myself. It's really easy to give back. It's easy to find the time. It's easy to get up early and work late to help those who need the help the most.
You've also put a heck of a lot of time into fundraising for causes in the Columbia area. I think I even saw recently you've been serving on the board of directors of an educational foundation, I think
Correct.
for Richland School District
Correct.
2, as well as a number of causes, and having received a heck of a lot of awards, John, for fundraising as it relates to any numbers of philanthropic. Again, I'm trying to find out how folks have time to commit to areas. One, I saw back in 1986, the United Jewish Federation had recognized you with its campaign award for leadership of the campaign.
Paid a lot of money for those awards.
Yeah,
it's always nice to be recognized for the work that you do for the community, and those out there who receive recognitions like myself. It is nice to be recognized, but more importantly, it's to do the work and know that you're helping perfect the world. That's why we're here.
Share with the viewers a little about one of the things I saw in reading about you, bonds for the State of Israel. What exactly are those, and if you don't mind giving a little background to that.
Happy to. The State of Israel was founded in 1948, and several years after the State of Israel was founded, a group of Jewish businessmen in the United States wanted to do something to further help the State of Israel survive long term. They created a corporation in the United States. Foreign countries cannot come into this country and float a security or a bond. It's illegal. But this corporation is a legal corporation who has been selling bonds, securities, rated securities, whose proceeds go to help the State of Israel. The proceeds are helped to build roads, schools, hospitals, infrastructure. Currently, right now, we are building a rail system in the State of Israel to take the dependence off the car because of all the pollution in the country. In addition, we're building desalination plants. We're taking salt water, making it into fresh water, and providing it to all of the citizens of the State of Israel, including citizens of the State of Jordan. Last year, $1.3 billion in bonds were sold worldwide, and bonds are available for as little as $100 to $5,000 to $25,000 and up, and the bonds pay a rate of interest. So the organization is not a charitable 501c3 like the March of Dimes. It's an investment organization. So it's really a double mitzvah, a double good deed. You can invest in yourself and invest in the State of Israel.
Well, I think I saw that the state of South Carolina is wrapped around this. $10 million one year, $10 million the next year.
That's correct. Twice in the last 3 years, the State Treasurer, Grady Patterson, has approved buying $10 million in bonds, and it's a great example to show the support of the State of Israel by our state.
That is amazing. That is fantastic to have seen that and to see that it crosses administrations and is supported, whether it's through Governor Hodges' administration or Governor Sanford's.
Correct.
Very impressive. You know, you think about trends in fundraising. We think about aspects, obviously, post 9/11/01. How have you seen it as it relates to, since you're involved in so many charitable groups and philanthropic causes statewide, how have you seen some of those trends in fundraising?
I haven't personally seen any significant drop in giving levels, at least to the March of Dimes. You know, a great example of that would be that many of us reacted, let's say, and you mentioned to 9/11. Perhaps some of us might have written a check to Red Cross or some other organization to react to that. The tsunami relief is another example where many of us took out our checkbooks and wrote a check for something that we didn't plan on writing in terms of our budget. I haven't seen any detrimental effect since 9/11, and if anything, I've seen a closeness in our organization for people wanting to support, because despite 9/11, despite the tsunami in Southeast Asia, the needs are still there to help us address prematurity in this country.
John, are you still out pumping it up on the walks? Are you out there stretching?
I'm out stretching.
Right.
In fact, the stretching is very important. If you exercise, getting warmed up early in the morning is really critical. I know they do it here in Myrtle Beach and the walks in the PD and Columbia as well. I get out there and stretch very early so to get those legs warm before making that 6-mile walk. And I must say that there have been a few years in the past that when I see the poop wagon coming along, I want to get in that wagon and go back to where we started. But it's always a lot of fun, and it's a great opportunity to bring businesses together in a social setting after the walk's over. And many of the businesses in Columbia have tents and booths, and they set up and make it a social occasion for their employees.
If viewers learn about the Walk America, the March of Dimes for the first time, or just thinking about it, some of the aspects that they may want to tell their employer about, what are some of the benefits of Walk America, let's say, for a company or even an individual who is no longer working, is potentially retired? What are some of the benefits for him or her?
Well, certainly there's several benefits. Obviously, to participate in the walk, there are obviously great physical benefits from getting out on a pretty day and walking. The other benefit, of course, is that there's an opportunity for tax-deductible contribution to the March of Dimes, helping us fight birth defects and address the prematurity issue. Those are the major aspects of how folks can help us.
You know, it's fascinating when you think through it. I think we saw, and I know I'm trying to prep for Kathy tomorrow, seeing some of your statewide sponsors. You've got Blue Cross Blue Shield, as well as in the local level, Bank of America and Wachovia, local newspapers. It's incredible to see that kind of exposure. And when you think for them, large employers, where they're encouraging these folks to get out, get their groups of employees together to raise funds.
So important. I mean, the companies that you mentioned and many others in South Carolina are stepping up to the plate and going to bat for the March of Dimes, and they realize how important it is for our women of childbearing age to understand the complications that go with smoking, the complications of not having a good diet, of not having good exercise, and having your body ready for the time when you decide to have a family. And all these things are important. Those costs are staggering in this state and in this country. So being healthy and understanding those issues are critical for us, and that's one of the things that we try to do to both young men and young women out in South Carolina, is talk about being prepared for the time to start a family.
John, we got about 5 minutes. That aspect of a private foundation to raise funds for a public school system, if you don't mind me asking real quick about that, that's relatively novel.
Well, it's pretty commonplace throughout this country. The idea that you have public schools that get a set amount of money for their budget every year, and those dollars can be dwindling over time based on areas growing or not growing if the area doesn't have good industry and good millage rates for tax purposes. The idea of getting businesses and individuals involved in education is certainly something that's certainly not new. It's certainly not novel, and it's a great opportunity for individuals to do something special for the schools that their children go to or the schools in their district where they live. Again, what attracts industry to Myrtle Beach, attracts industry to Charleston, Columbia, to Loris, and to the other areas in the PD is the strength of your school system, the strength of the teachers, what we pay our teachers, and the good education we can provide to our young people. That's what draws good industry to our areas. If we have good students and the students are scoring well, then you've got an educated workforce for the future. And that's what's critical to economic development, both in the PD and all throughout the state. So the foundations, private foundations, working, identifying donors, identifying individuals to give monies to schools is something that's growing over time, because what's happening nationwide is corporations are giving less and less dollars themselves and encouraging employees to make up that difference. And a lot of that we see with the March of Dimes. The corporate support is there, not as great as in the past, and what they do is the corporations encourage their employees to get involved, give of their own money, ask their friends to give money, and those that they know to get behind the cause.
That's fascinating, John. You know, you think about those aspects. You took on the position. You arose as chairman how recently?
I am beginning my third year, I believe, as state board chair, and prior to that, I was the local board chair in Columbia for 2 years prior to that. So my involvement with the March of Dimes has only been the last 4 or 5 years. It started in 1999 when the March of Dimes started a new event in Columbia called the Real Estate Award. And my company was approached about being the inaugural honoree for that event. And after the event was over, I didn't raise my hand, but I walked up to the staff and said, you know, this is a great event. How can I help? And it only took one day for them to call me back and say, we want you to help us.
That's
and
great.
Actually didn't have a local board of any kind. And we put that board together from representatives of companies who are walking in our local walk. Today, the local board in Columbia is about 25 or 30 members strong.
Is that right?
Correct.
I know the Horry County Board was just set up a couple of years ago.
Right.
Nick Scherfus, who's the chairman of the board here locally, has made a impassioned plea to a lot of local folks to get involved, and obviously he was able to tap some of the folks who've been involved in Walk America.
That's right.
In the past. Very smart. And of course, a real estate breakfast, for a viewer who may not be familiar with that, what's the goal behind that?
The goal behind that is for us to recognize a member of the real estate community, whether it's residential, commercial, could be an architect, an engineer, could be a mortgage banker, someone who's involved in the real estate industry in the community, to recognize that individual and or that company. We typically have breakfasts in which we bring vendors of that honoree together and people in the community. We honor that individual, that company, and raise money through the March of Dimes that way. That's a growing special event that's started in Greenville in 1998, started in Columbia in 1999, and I think we have 5 or 6 of them now throughout the state of South Carolina.
That's right. They just had one here recently recognizing Billy Alford and Danny Isaac, the founders of A&I Fire and Water Restoration.
Very worthy honorees. Absolutely,
and a huge success. And you hear some of the inspiring stories, again, of the ambassador families, ambassador mother, fathers of children either born prematurely or born with substantial birth defects.
When we have events like this, we try to put a face on the problem of prematurity, and bringing the ambassador families together so that the donors can meet the ambassador family, hear their story is really touching, and it allows donors to get up close and personal with those ambassador families that we have throughout South Carolina.
Do you remember back to the Super Walks in the 70s, if the ambassador babies held a role, or if that's a relatively new...
No, the ambassador families did hold a role.
Really?
I mean, I think we had a national ambassador at that time, just like we have now.
Right.
And I can recall that national ambassador coming to Columbia, and I even personalized my own holiday greeting card with a picture of the national ambassador child and myself, and sent it to friends and said, thank you for your support of the March of Dimes.
Wow.
Right.
You know, I think just last year, the year before, the National March of Dimes ambassador child was from the Palmetto State.
That's correct. Amanda Reeves, family's from the Greenville area, the upstate area, and she just gave up that role at the end of this past year, and we were proud to have her as the national ambassador, the first national ambassador we've had from the state of South Carolina.
What do you think has been the most exciting aspect over the last 3 years as chairman of the state board, traveling around to so many of the activities, getting the boards pumped up, getting volunteers excited? Do you think it's the event this Saturday night that's really gotten you excited? What do you think it is?
That event certainly has gotten me excited over the last year, but it's meeting wonderful, supportive people like yourself who've been involved in our community, who understand the impact that prematurity has on our not only our children but our family. It's meeting those heroes. The heroes to me are our volunteer board members, our wonderful staff that we have throughout South Carolina, and certainly the ambassador children and the families and the nurses and doctors. That to me is the most rewarding. Certainly the event we've got this Saturday night has been rewarding for me because I've been spending a lot of time the last year talking about prematurity and soliciting donations. But meeting all these wonderful people who have the same goals and objectives that I have has been rewarding for me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for being with us this morning,
Thank
John.
you. Thank you, Greg, for having me. Enjoyed it.
Definitely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with John Baker coming up next. As long as babies' lives hang in the balance, the mission of the March of Dimes is clear. It's volunteers like John Baker, volunteers like you, the ability to pick up the phone and call 843-488-3463 to find out about tomorrow's kickoff event for the April 30th Horry County Walk America, or to visit www.walkamerica.org to learn more about the March of Dimes and upcoming Walk Americas in your community. It's the ambassador families that are touched directly, as well as so many that are touched indirectly, the impacts of premature birth and birth defects on everyone. Take the time to call the March of Dimes. Learn about tomorrow's kickoff event. Get out there at 4 o'clock, IMAX Theater at Broadway at the Beach, and call 843-488-3463.